How's it going, everybody, and welcome to Shin Megami Tensei Network Link153. I'm your host, Spencer Presley, and joining me for this podcast is Michael, who I cannot believe I got this far without asking, how do you pronounce that last name?
It's pronounced Spadafore.
Man, thank God. I would have probably been like Sparta-Force or something really bad about that.
No,
I'm
it's
usually
all right.
so much better at asking that beforehand, and I looked at your last name and I was like, I could pronounce that, and no, totally chickened out. So, Spadafore.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Oh no, it's totally all right. I get that more times than you think, so I'm totally used to it. Normally, I spell it for people.
I was gonna say, actually, you know what's probably worse than pronouncing it is when you say it over the phone and someone has to guess how that's spelled.
Yeah.
But yeah, Michael, you were nice enough to, well, I guess actually do two things. One, you and your team at Taiyou Con were nice enough to allow us back after very rudely bailing on you like 2 or so years ago. And number two, you were nice enough to come on this podcast and let us talk to you and get to know who you are and what you do.
Of course, and you don't have to worry about what happened in the past. I'm very understanding. Um, I don't take it personally, especially when people people are coming from out of state, have to cancel last minute. That's not an issue at all.
Well, I'm thankfully humble enough to know that I'm definitely not important enough to not apologize if it happens, so profuse apologies usually come well before like any humble bragging and stuff, but that's very
Of
nice of you
course.
to say either way. So for anyone out there who doesn't know who you are or what you do, or if they somehow know who you are and don't know what the show is, we usually talk about Shin Megami Tensei stuff or Persona. Do you have any sort of series or like what's your origins, if either, for the franchise?
So I think, ooh, so I discovered Shin Megami Tensei through through a buddy of mine in college. The first game that I actually had the chance of playing was the first Shin Megami Tensei game.
Well, you
It was.
started with one?
Mhm.
How old
I
were
mean, I
you?
mean, I mean, it was an emulator, and
Oh, I
like
mean,
two.
yeah. You
It was an
mean, I
emulator in
would.
2010, but
I would. I'm normally not one for like emulation first, unless
yeah.
like it's the only option. But if our choice was the iOS port from 2013 or emulation, I'd rather you just emulate it.
Oh yeah, definitely. And then so that there was that, and then we found a copy of Persona 3, and me and my brother bought a really cheap PS2 just to play Persona 3, and then it's kind of been all over the place with me because I definitely prefer the mainline games and the older games to stuff that's coming out currently, except Persona 5, because I feel like that's a good medium for.
So not to like date you or whatever, if this is a weird question, but just because you're the first guest I've ever had who started with SMT1, so kudos
Mhm.
to whoever your friend was. How old were you when you played the first game?
19.
Okay, wow, that's a man. I don't even like really know because I'm in a weird space of like
Mhm.
I started with Revelations Persona in 90 whatever year that came out. I don't know why I'm forgetting. It's like 96 or 97, but I got
Yeah,
that
yeah.
very very closely like to when it came out as a kid.
Mhm.
And like that I had the weird like situation of I liked this and absolutely no one else I know did. So
Mhm.
that's got to be really crazy, or at least you hit it at a time where you could like pick up a PS2 and Persona 3 for like a lot cheaper than at least when it came out. Although I guess actually kind of depends because I remember there was a time where like finding a copy of like anything Atlus on PS2 was really rare, but like now you can just buy them on Amazon for like 20
Yeah, it
bucks.
it was definitely, and please forgive me, I misspoke. It was actually Persona 4 that we found. I think it was back we had this local a game store called Game Crazy. It was connected
Oh
to
man, yeah, Hollywood Video.
yeah, it's connected
Come
to
on, man.
Hollywood Video.
I grew up in Arizona. I'm very,
Oh, that's
very
right.
aware of Hollywood Video. Oh man, yeah, Game Crazy takes me back.
Yeah, and we found one next to where we were at, and they were having, I think it was when they were closing or whatever, they
Hmm.
just were like giving stuff away, and one of the copies was Persona 4, and we're just like, yeah, we'll go in here and buy this for extremely cheap.
Oh
That's fine.
man, yeah, that's really funny because yeah, for me growing up, I don't know if it was just like the part of like Phoenix I was in.
Hmm.
I feel like I never saw like a GameStop or even like I guess at that point it would be like EB Games. Like
Yeah.
my only places I remember you bought video games was like Best Buy. Obviously you could like rent them from Blockbuster or Hollywood Video or
Hmm.
Game Crazy or like oh no, I can't forget this name now because it isn't even a game store. Bookman's, like the used
Yeah.
bookstores.
Yeah.
Like I would always go to Bookman's because they'd always have like weird import stuff.
And yeah, that's what me and my brother would do. I think for a majority until they closed down, like Game Crazy and Bookman's were the top places we would get our games, because even though we would still get like DS games at like those other stores, like we were in that period where we were buying um a lot of Super Nintendo games. And there's been a couple other stores that have opened since then that have allowed us to do that. Like there's this store called the Gaming Zone, and they have not only really cool rare games, but they also have imports and reproduction cartridges. So I remember one year for Christmas, I got my brother a reproduction cartridge of the first Shin Megami Tensei game, or the remake that came out on the Super Nintendo.
Oh yeah,
Um,
that one's like it's so funny like how I feel like when it comes to like really popular like repo carts in English, it's always like that. Um, I guess Mother is always a big one, even though there is an
mhm,
English version of that, just because there's so many repros of like Mother out there, and
mhm,
just like I feel like there's like a couple other like weirdos, but yeah, SMT is a big one because I remember that translation had been around for a while, and
mhm.
it's so weird to think that like Atlus took so long to get an official version of that translation out there, and they killed it in like 3 years.
Oh yeah, no, I remember everybody was so excited that it got ported, and then they're like, oh, it's only going to be on the iPhone. And like the one or two friends of mine that actually had an iPhone were ecstatic, and everybody was just like, I guess it's not out yet.
Yeah, it really sucks because I remember at the time, like that was in the early days of us starting the podcast. I was the only one with an iPhone, and I was really really big into it. And it was like, okay, I'll go check it out. And the port was fine because it was like it was the GBA version. Basically, had like a fan translation put on there. Like touch controls are usually generally terrible, but for an RPG, you could do way worse. But it was one
Hmm.
of those things of like they clearly did the bare minimum. The sales were not there because hey, they did the bare minimum, and it wasn't ported to Android because hey, guess what? Most stuff on Android gets pirated by like 80% of the user base.
Oh yeah, and it's just like it's definitely a little heartbreaking to see, because they're like, oh, we're not going to put in effort because we know that the sales aren't there for this.
Yeah, they're like setting themselves up to fail. It's like, oh
Hmm.
well, no one's really gonna care, or they're gonna pirate it, so we're not gonna put much effort. And then a couple years later, be like, well, no one bought it, so why would we do the rest?
Yeah, especially because of how, like, there is a fan translation for the second Shin Megami Tensei game. It's not really good, but it's something.
Well, yeah, and
Um,
that's the crazy thing because we're still in a world where this series is like over like 20 plus years old, and we have just a game that has never been officially released in English in any way with the second game. Like
yeah.
the spin-offs you kind of get a little more. SMT if clearly has no reason. Like Atlus is like aware is like that is just another Persona game. You made Persona because of this game, so I would kind of get them even doing if before two. But it's like
Hmm.
it would like I guess to like put it in an easy way for anyone out there who doesn't really know like the history or like the size of the series. It's like if the Final Fantasy 3 remake on DS never came out. Cause like that
Yeah.
was our only, I guess actually no, yeah, the DS version is still the only. Yeah, Square's never actually re-released the original version with English subs.
Yeah, no, now that I can think about it, you're right.
Yeah, so which actually sucks for me because as a Final Fantasy fan, I absolutely hate the DS art style. So it really sucks that if you want to play 3, that's the only version. But
Hmm.
also, I'm a huge jaded bastard, and I think 3 is like 3's good until you realize 4 is a thing, and since 4 existed for so long, like 3 is just like the most meh plot ever.
Yeah, no, it was definitely. I remember picking up 3 when it came out the first time, and I really enjoyed it until I randomly died because I flew my airship over a mountain. No explanation. It just crashed, and I got a game over.
Yeah, thanks,
And I'm
Onion
just like,
Knights.
I'm just like, oh, this is a thing. This is an old RPG. Okay.
So going back actually to another thing you brought up, so you were saying like Persona 5 is kind of like a good medium compared to like SMT and like some of the other games for it.
Hmm.
In terms of like I guess your fandom as a series, like where like when an Atlus game is kind of announced, like what's your kind of like hype level for all the things we have sort of out there right now in terms of like I'm more excited for Scramble or I'm more excited for Royal or I'm just gonna wait 9 years for SMT5.
So I'm waiting for SMT5 news because they have to give something up soon.
All right.
I mean, I feel like they're waiting until they're ready to show something off. I feel like they might have released a teaser a little too early for it. Um, but I'm really excited for Scramble because they're using music from everything
Mm-hmm.
for it.
It's sad that
Um,
like it's sad that the Koei Tecmo developed Persona spinoff is going to be the best representation that series has had, even more than the 25th anniversary it had like in 2016. Actually, no, that was the 20th anniversary. My bad.
I'm uh I'm I'm probably not going to pick that game up day one.
Scramble?
Um, yeah, Scramble.
Well, yeah, that's kind of one of those weird ones of like it's gonna be. I think that game is gonna attract the big weirdo weebs like me who love everything like Persona Atlas, and I'm also a huge
Hmm.
Warriors nerd, so that like
Oh yeah.
scratches like every itch for me possible. But like that one, I think unless they're just hiding something really crazy, they're normally not this confident with how much they show off and how much positive reception they get for it, especially for a Koei Tecmo game.
Oh,
But
especially with like the Warriors. And you can definitely correct me if you think I'm wrong with this as well. Like with their spin-offs or their side series, the first one is usually all right, not anything too super special, and then they like ramp it up for the sequel, and they're like, "Hey, we learned everything that we've done wrong with this game, and here's a sequel to forget about the first game."
see, that's like the weird one where actually that's normally true with a lot of the mainline stuff. For the spin-offs, it's really weird, and it just kind of depends on like what team you have, because they're
Hmm.
like they vary so much in quality. Like it's really weird, but actually for the most part, their spin-offs have been actually better than almost all their mainline stuff. So it's really all over the place.
Oh yeah,
But
definitely. If look at um Hokuto Muso for example.
which Muso is that?
Hokuto no Ken, Fist of the North Star.
Oh, yeah. Sorry, I've actually played that, but I my just totally whooshed on my head there. That's funny.
No, it's
That's
all
funny that you
right.
say that. Were you more of a fan of one than two?
Um, I actually like the second one a little better.
Okay, yeah, because two
Um,
two was weird because it actually kind of came out after the new gen was here in like that kind of middling Wii U era, and so
mhm.
like not a lot of people played it. Plus, actually, I don't even think the West got a physical version.
So we didn't get a physical version. I think only the Xbox got a physical version of
No, I
Muso.
know there was an English one in Europe on the Wii U at least for
Oh,
two.
really?
Yeah, but I mean it's region locked, so kind of it's
Yeah.
a mute point. Although same as Xbox, but so going 5,000 years back, because I was going to make a joke, but
Oh, yeah.
I can't
My
not
bad.
stress this. No, you're good. The joke has already died, but I'm still gonna throw it out there. So you unfortunately gave me the wrong answer. I gave you three choices. The answer was the fourth one I didn't say. You were supposed to say Tokyo Mirage Sessions coming out in like less than a month, but I will forgive you for forgetting.
I'm not gonna lie. You were completely correct. I knew it was coming, but I thought it was in like February.
I mean, it's gonna be one of those weird moments of even the naysayers who like pretty much think of nothing but like the dumb censorship memes that have come out of its release. I think a lot of people are gonna see once that's on the Wii U. Sorry, like since it's not gonna be on the Wii U, how good of a Atlus like SMT like RPG itch that scratches. That it's gonna like convert a lot of people, because that game is really crazy, and it's so weird to think to me that I've never been more confident in knowing that that game on the Switch is gonna probably at least sell double whatever like Persona Royal did, just because of the user base that's like been waiting for so long or just never wanted to buy a Wii U.
Do you know if they fixed up any of the balancing in Tokyo Mirage Session, or is it just a straight port?
See, it's the weirdest thing. We've gotten the announcement info dump back in September, and then stuff has been coming out kind of slowly the last couple of weeks, but we don't really know what the new level looks like. We only know like what some new costumes, and we know what one new song sounds like, but they haven't gone into what the battle changes are, but they have commented that they did like kind of fine-tune a lot of the mechanics, because basically the North American release had a lot of like even the North American version had balance changes from the JP release that didn't get added, and so I think the devs have even said that they're trying to kind of make this the definitive version, which makes sense because it's the first time they're doing a worldwide release.
Definitely, and I know the only reason I asked that is my friend was talking about it with me, because I didn't have a chance to play it. My brother owned the Wii U and I didn't. And we unfortunately lived separately when that time came. But like all I learned is like the ending was such a grind, and even if you were not max level, but even if you were the level you were supposed to be, it would still take like I think it was like the final secret boss or something would still take, an hour or an hour and a half to beat, and you had to do it precisely in a way to get it right.
See, it's kind of weird, even though it's like only a little over 3 years old. It feels like so much time has kind of passed, because I remember when that game came out, I sunk my teeth into it like really, really deeply, and because there was like nothing else to really play on the Wii U at all, it's kind of hard to remember if I thought too much of it was a slog, just because at that time I would pretty much get 1 or 2 Wii U games a year that I would be excited for, and just pretty much gobble them up and not really think about the time. But that is a good point. I'm kind of curious since you bring it up. I actually haven't beaten Persona 5, but one of the things I have heard the most about Persona 5's endgame is that also kind of feels like a slog to get through the last dungeon. Would you kind of agree about that?
Yes and no. I mean, if you did it the correct way, then yes. But there's I mean, you probably know about this trick, to where if you go into Mementos, during flu season, I think it's like 3 days of the year, there's a chance that enemies can get depressed or get that sad status, to where if they get it, they die in 3 turns. So what you can do
basically just cheese your way through the flu season to get to the dungeon.
So you would cheese your way, and you would actually find the Reaper. There's a chance that the Reaper can have that status effect.
Oh, yeah, because that stacks on him, too.
Yeah, and he just dies. So I think I can't remember what I was having trouble on, but I just went to the flu season, and I think I got to, like, level 90, level 90 before I went to the final dungeon. I'm just like, this is it. This is good.
That's actually crazy. I've by some miracle actually stayed for the most part pretty spoiler free from it, just because I am like the weirdest. Like that game hit at the absolute weirdest and worst time in my life, but I've somehow actually not spoiled it for myself. I'm actually playing through it all now for the first time, like seriously, like fresh start, because it was one of those moments of like I had to just wipe my save. I remember what happened in the story, but like you get so detached from like playing a game where mentally it's just easier for you just to like wipe it all and just start from the beginning, because then it's like, okay, I'll have beaten the game, but I won't remember like the first half of it.
Exactly. Honestly, that's the same time every time I sit down with Fallout New Vegas. I'm just like,
oh man, really?
I'm gonna restart. Yeah.
I guess actually in that case I would enjoy that, because like that game, especially in the beginning, the beginning and end of New Vegas are so strong, where that middle can definitely be like a what am I doing?
Yeah.
Um, Congratulations, you now have our longest "Who Are You" intros record of all time. I cannot
Oh, well,
believe
thank you. Thank you.
I cannot believe we were actually stuck on that, but I appreciated getting to learn that about you and stuff. Uh, Besides, obviously what you're into with the series and whatnot, we had mentioned at the top of the show that you work for. I guess actually, what is your role for Taiyou Con? I'll let you kind of take that.
Of course, I am actually the convention director for Taiyou Con. So um I do a lot of the organization on the staff side. I, reach out to guests. I put basically our game plan down for our convention and set up meetings and um, get get everything in order. Sometimes I present new ideas, but it's not just me. Even though I'm the director, I'm still it's like a collaboration with all of my staff members. I'm not one to go, this whole show is built by me.
Are
I'm
you saying you're not the Hideo Kojima of Taiyou Con?
I mean, I could be,
Yeah,
but it's
okay, that's
more,
good. You're at least realist enough to know that it could be you. You're
yeah.
okay. That's even
But I
better.
just I just make sure that that everybody who puts their hard work and effort into TaioCon gets the credit that they deserve. Anytime somebody asks me, everybody some you know a lot of times people will come up to me and go, "Wow, you had a really good show. You did a wonderful job." And I'm just like, "Oh, my staff did all the work. They're the ones that put in the hard work for this." So,
So I'm not gonna try and put you on the spot here, but when I first came to TaioCon, I think this was I think I asked you in 2016 or
mhm.
or it might have been either after or before, but I know the only time I saw you in person for the very first time. Do you recall what the really dumb first question I ever had for you was?
I'm trying to think.
It's very on brand and also really embarrassing, if that's a hint.
Because I think the first time that I saw that that we met was, I think you were standing in line for an autograph session with the three of them, with LJ and the rest.
We call that the Holy Trinity because all their names would be too hard to say otherwise.
Yeah. Um, I can't. I for the life of me
No,
can't
you're good.
remember.
This would be embarrassing more for you if you did remember it. So I'm just the big dummy who still remembers this. I remember the first time I saw you, I either congratulated you or whatever for like getting everyone to like come there and like for the convention. My actual first question to you though was please tell me that the guy who made the old Taiyou commercials is still works for you.
Oh yeah,
And you were
yeah.
like, no, he's not.
Oh yeah. No, I've had that come up so often recently.
Wait,
Um,
recently?
yeah. No.
It doesn't just like someone will look up Taiyou and then that'll somehow be the first thing that comes up on YouTube or whatever, and then they'll be like, oh, this is that convention.
So like they'll search it up, like it came up on like that Facebook page Curse Commercials.
Oh yeah, actually
Um,
that's true because like, there will never be a better time in it. Like because when we were, I think getting ready for it was like 2017, I think 2016 or 17.
mhm,
No, it probably was 16. It was when we were like gonna try and do like our first like group meetup with everybody and have a bunch of people fly down. When we
mhm.
were trying to pitch it on the podcast, we were like, "Listen, guys, we're gonna live react to this commercial, and if you don't watch this commercial and want to fly to Arizona, you clearly don't know what's wrong with you."
I'm trying to see. I'm trying to see because this commercial has so many views, and like even when um even when some guests come down, they're just like, "Oh, the TaioCon, you're from that convention." I'm just like, "Yeah, I am."
I'm
Like,
now obviously you might be a little biased.
that's all right.
Would you say it's tied with in terms of infamy with SakuraCon or is like above or below?
I would say it's a little below Sakura Cons, but I definitely know that people know of the convention because of the commercial.
That's called. I mean, you got good SEO at least from that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So I wish I don't know, it's not a sore spot per se, but it's like a that's a it's a I don't know. I love it. I love the commercial.
Well, commercials. It was good enough that it got
Commercials.
a
Oh yeah,
sequel.
that's right.
We
That's right.
The sequel, I will say, never gets enough love. Definitely needs to be seen because it took at least it at least asked the question: if Rebecca Black is good enough for a sequel, why can't Taiyou Con have a sequel?
Oh man.
Yeah, that sequel definitely does not get picked up as much as the first one,
No, it doesn't.
which might be a good thing depending on who you ask for it. Um, if somehow you've made it 20 so minutes into this, I don't know how I was this unprofessional for it. But if by some miracle you've heard the word Taiyou Con a bunch and have no idea what it is, what is the quick sales pitch, Michael, for what is Taiyou Con?
So we are Arizona's coolest anime convention. We are celebrating our 10th year anniversary here um, in Mesa, Arizona. We're a little earlier this year. We're now next week actually. And by next
The
week I
prep
mean
is real.
and by next week I mean January 3rd through the 5th.
Yeah,
But
but by the
we
time this goes up, it'll be exactly a week before the convention. So no one.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, I'll probably have this up Friday evening or like early Friday night for people.
Oh man, I'm super excited. But yeah, no, we're just all things anime, video games, manga, cosplay. Well, something that's really cool is that we actually did our big, or we're doing a huge um a fighting game tournament called Taiyou Con Rumbles. So that's very exciting for us.
Yeah, I've actually seen you. You probably be the most excited about that in terms of all the stuff I've seen sharing about that. Was that like a passion project for you, or just like something you're really proud of starting?
So it was a more of a passion project. I've really been in apart from doing all of this, I'm really big into fighting games. Um, any fighting games. I'm also into helping the community grow and getting that taken care of, and the chance for me to actually host like a little mini major or something for our attendees. Not only our attendees, but for the fighting game community in the Southwest is something that I'm really interested in. So it is a little um it is a little smaller, but I know as the years progress and as we go on, we can definitely keep getting bigger and bigger. So I'm super excited for what the future holds for
Yeah,
us.
that's really really awesome. Man, it's so crazy that this is your guys' 10th year. I need to actually go back and remember the exact first date for it. So when was I guess so what TioCon would have been where you had I guess as I was calling before, like the Holy Trinity. So the in case anyone doesn't know, because I'm definitely gonna horribly butcher their names. You guys invited down the main vocalist from Persona 3, Persona 4, and Lotus Juice. Was that
Hmm.
2015 or
Yes,
20?
that is correct.
Okay. So that would have been when I first discovered you guys, and then 2016 would have been like when we had a lot more people down there.
Yes.
Um, yeah, so that is somehow when I first discovered you guys, and it was really weird because even though I'd moved out of Arizona in like 2004,
Hmm.
I pretty much had always visited just about like once or so every year. And my dad, who had lived there for the longest time, would always like bring up stuff that he like, oh, I saw this or whatever, or like blah blah blah. He's like, he knows his son's like a big dork, so he's like, oh,
Yeah.
you want to go to this dummy. So somehow it's really weird that you guys like never came up. But I remember when you guys had announced all of your guests and stuff for it, me thinking to myself, and I was like, I can't not go to this because you guys were like 5 minutes away from where my dad lived at the time, so I had basically guaranteed like free ride and stay, and it was
Hmm.
like a $200 plane ticket from Kansas, like there and back. And I was like, I gotta go. Like I'm doing this show. I can't think of any other time these people are ever gonna perform in the States because I was like, unless there was some other crazy time, like that was the first time all three of them had ever performed together in the States, right?
That is correct. Yes, we were the first the first coming of the exciting for me, and a notch under my belt that I'll always be able to keep.
I mean, honestly, like that thing for you guys was like a big one in our group of like, oh my god, like like they were like, you guys were able to get this, and we have like a lot of listeners and stuff also from Arizona, because that's one of the nice things that I like trying to every now and then like post that like our panel is happening at Taiyou Con, because every
Hmm.
now and then there'll always be someone seeing it somehow for the first time, and it'll be like, oh, I had no idea the thing was happening, because I was always so surprised how many people were either close enough that they'd be willing to come down to Phoenix, or like we're basically like right in Mesa.
Oh, yeah, and that's definitely something that we've been battling with as well. It's one of those, hey, we do all this advertising, but we still get a, you guys are in Mesa, sort of sort of thing. So I'm
Hmm.
just like, yeah, I'm used to it.
So I guess sort of going back though to that 2015 like con experience, who was the one to have signed that? Because I would have loved to have known the process of like getting all three of them to actually attend the convention.
So my partner was the one that actually booked them for the first time, but for that one, then I guess it's just a lot of um it's just a lot of um negotiating, really, depending on, sometimes it's more about who you know and kind of where you know them
I
from.
mean, honestly, I it's kind of unfortunate, but it feels like, especially in like that kind of like industry and stuff for it, it is 90% of the time I feel like it is a who you know, as opposed to could you like afford this or whatever. It's like, no, you cut like getting to ask the question is normally harder than like getting like any other step of the way.
And there's always multiple ways to go around booking somebody. It depends on, if they have an agent or if they're friends with somebody. Because there are some times where it's better to do things the proper way than it is to go through a middle person. Like going for somebody's agency sometimes is better than just going through their friends.
Hmm. I'm trying to think of what else with that, but yeah, I could not have been more glad that I pretty much took the plunge, because I think I ended up booking my ticket like super last minute. It ended up being like a week or two before it all, because it was
Hmm.
like one of those things of like, I really shouldn't, of like a money kind of thing, but then I just kind of decided just to like bite the bullet for it, and it was
Hmm.
really good that I did, because it was one of those like my favorite ways to go into a convention of, I knew nobody was there, I hadn't advertised it really beforehand, and I just kind of was like, okay, I'll go see what it's like, do whatever I can out of it, enjoy the experience, and then see how many people I can meet. It was just super super surprised like how not only like that year was super super nice, but I remember like the next year being like even better, and like how bummed I was in 2017 when I had to back out at the last minute, because a lot of people that I still knew from the podcast group were still going there, and
Hmm.
seeing them there, I think missing out in for that year gave me like the most like, I know there's like a feel for it. Like there's like a dumb like cringy word for it, like when all of your friends are at a convention and you're not at it, and I like cannot put my finger on it.
I definitely know what you're talking about, though, even though I don't know the words.
But yeah, so it's been really kind of funny for it, because when I think of conventions that I always like associate with like our show in terms of like nostalgia or like really liking to go to, there's one convention called NakaCon in Kansas.
Hmm.
Could not be closer to my. It's like the equivalent of like a 5 minute drive away. So that one I've like
Hmm.
physically just kind of been like, I have no reason ever to go to this, because you might as well until I get kicked out. And it was you
Yeah.
guys, because of how many like awesome like experiences we had from like all of your guests you guys have ever had over, or just basically an excuse to like have a West Coast meetup without just
Hmm.
saying, hey, let's go meet up at an In and Out.
Yeah, exactly. Oh man.
So going back to your sort of history with it, what got you started with working at TireCon? Like, what was kind of like your first role or position, or did you start immediately as a director?
Um, I actually started out as the security director back in our first convention. I think I was 18 at the time, if I remember
So
correctly.
2009, the very first one.
It was actually no, I'm sorry, my bad. 2011 was the very first one. It's a little weird in it is a little weird with um with the way events are done. But anyways, so was it? Hold on. Now I am sorry. Forgive me.
No, you're good. We're having like the loading screen moment for both of us. You're good.
Well, either one. For our first convention, I was the security director um, for Taiyou Con.
Hmm.
And then 2 years later, they asked me if I wanted to be the convention director.
Wow, what a glow up! Go from security to director.
It was definitely very, very interesting
Well, I can
for
only
me
kind
to
of
do that.
imagine in terms of your plate getting a lot bigger by comparison of the two roles. Were you did you just kind of like had you had much like nervousness towards it? Were you just ready to kind of jump in, or like basically had you ever had any prior aspirations to do more and help out with the convention?
Um, I always did have aspirations to do more with the convention, and it definitely came at a time where I had, the best opportunity to actually put forth the best effort for the convention and you know put put forth my best effort. It definitely, looking back at it now, it was definitely probably not something you wanted to give somebody as young as me, um, because it was a whole lot of trial and error on my part, but everything turned out all right in the end. So
Yeah, the con has not burned down. You guys have made it
yeah.
to 10 years old, so I'm sure. Well, I guess actually I now need to think about this. So whoever offered you that position,
Mhm.
are they still working with Taiyou in any way, shape, or form?
Yes, the two people that actually offered me that position are actually the owners or the chairs of the convention.
There you go. See,
And
that's
they
how you know you've done a good job. If they're not scared enough to like have to like cut ship and leave it all for you.
exactly.
Um, so I guess I'm trying to think about this for let's talk about 2020, or as I apparently have found out in the most horrific way. In my brain, apparently thought TaiyuCon 2019. It's so close to 2019. It is 2019.
Yeah.
Uh, which, by the way, spoilers because I've not publicized this because I'm not ready to fully admit how much of a goofing human error I am. But apparently, during the process of submitting our panel, at no point in my head did I think 2019 needed to be changed into 2020. And it's really funny because I submitted that panel to multiple like other conventions for the year just because it's kind of like a timely one for 2020.
Hmm.
So when I found out like when the programming sheet came out and I saw it was 2019 because it wasn't even that like when it got like when it said like when the programming person had emailed me and said, "Hey, your panel's been accepted. Is this time okay?" Even that didn't hit it in my head. I was like, "No, yeah, title looks good. 2019. That's the year we're in. That's how this works." And it only like hit me at the like absolute last possible minute. It then made me have this horror moment of like, "Oh God, did I just copy and paste for all the other conventions? And then are these places gonna be 2019, or are they gonna see it was 2019 and think, God, if this guy can't even get the year right, who's gonna give this guy a panel?" Thankfully slash unfortunately, you guys were the only one I ever did 2019 for.
Well, that's good that you caught it earlier or didn't realize that you caught it.
It
But
at the very least, I'm gonna enjoy making fun of myself slash hope no one makes fun of me first for it because at the time it's gonna be like, oh God, how many people? Because like I know in my head I'm worrying about this so much that either I'm the only person who's actually going to see it and like put two and two together, or someone's gonna think, wow, he just wants to talk about 2019. That's very dedicated for like that company's most boring year ever.
oh man, I I did that a little while ago too. I was sending an email out to a sponsor, and I was getting it all typed up, and right before I hit send, or I hit send, and it still had our verbiage for 2019. Luckily, Google had, I guess Gmail has this feature now where you can unsend things real
Oh
quick.
no,
So I
man.
unsent it, fixed it, and I'm just like, haha, that would have been embarrassing.
The I hate like how some websites have alternatives to that, but they're never really good. Like Twitter will let you delete a message from a PM, but it will only delete it for you. So I'm like, what point is this for? Because I remember I was messaging someone a very serious message, and then only like 3 replies later did I realize, because I was using voice to text at the time, I had said I'd meant to say hello there, Paul. Unfortunately, I said hello, Logan Paul, which you do not want to be misunderstood for. There's a big difference between Paul and Logan
Yeah.
Paul. So I was like, oh man, why me every time when you don't need it to happen? So goofs aside, 2020. What are you most looking forward to for the convention besides the Taiyou Con Rumble?
Um, so so what I'm really looking forward to is earlier in the year, uh, my Japanese guest director, the chair, and I went to Japan on business. One thing that I really wanted to do this year was to make our 10-year anniversary really special. And while this year mostly we used it to focus on and strengthen our processes and make things a little bit more organized and a little bit more easy for our attendees to come and enjoy the show, we also have collaborated with the company Sekai Project and a couple other artists from Japan in order to release a 10-year anniversary illustration collection of our mascot Sunny, and I'm really looking forward to that.
Yeah,
I've
I saw you guys. I saw it when you guys had announced that. I'm just curious because I actually have a bit of a history with Sekai Works myself. Just how
Mhm.
did that kind of partnership line up with you guys? If you have much insight on that.
So I've known the owner of Sekai Projects for a little while now.
Chris?
Yeah,
Hmm.
Chris. Me and Chris are pretty good friends. But I definitely wanted to do more. I love visual novels. It's probably my main genre of gaming that I tend to go to.
By the way,
Uh,
we do shout outs a lot on this show, but I will never not give a shout out to visual novels. If this is someone needing to hear this, just pick up a visual novel. They don't get enough love. Visual novels are fantastic, and I'm sure I'm going to ask you a lot about it because of your history with it. But man, guys, pick up a visual novel. They're not boring. I promise. There are so many good ones.
Take a chance. This year was so good for visual novels.
I mean, really, when was the last bad year? Like, we had 2018. I think a personal highlight was Muv-Luv for me. Us
Yeah.
getting Muv-Luv was crazy.
One that really surprised me, and I did a review for this one with another group that I do video games reviews for. Um, Raging Loop came out of
Oh,
nowhere.
dude, yeah, that's the Kimco one, right?
Yeah, and it's literally just werewolf in a
I
novel form, and I'm surprised.
It's so funny. My knowledge of Kimco until Raging Loop got published by P-Cube.
Mhm.
Kimco, they did Bugs Bunny ports on the Game Boy in the 90s. They do a ton of RPGs for PS. Well, honestly, everything. But I pretty much play like their Vita stuff. And then like
Mhm.
yeah, seeing that they like had a like VN come out, I was like, what does this company not do?
But the thing is that Raging Loop was really good.
Well, okay. Also, I should clarify because if you do know who Kimco is, Kimco has a very love it or hate it thing. I was meaning I'm actually a weirdo in the sense of I like their RPG factory.
Mhm.
In terms of yes, they look like they're a main RPG maker. That can still be fun in like a mindless turn off your brain kind of way. So
Yeah,
I'm not in one
exactly.
of those ways. But I should have prefaced that with the fact that if some people do know Kimco, some people do just hear them and think okay they just auto generate trash out the door. But yeah, that was definitely not the case with Raging Loop at all.
Yeah, no, it was definitely very interesting, and I want more people to experience it.
Okay, well, I promise we're gonna talk visual novels because I very rarely get someone. And the fact that the first one you bring up was it Kimco visual novel means it's a good sign. You've got very vast taste. So going back though to Sekai Project, so you were saying though you'd been friends with Chris for a while. So how did this kind of partnership like what kind of got it to the point where it's at right now for you and Taiyou Con?
So I've always wanted to work with Sekai Project to expand visual novels to Arizona, and to kind of just give them um, more of a broader look for, uh, like an audience, even if people don't end up keeping with it. But when we were in Japan, we met with their Japanese side, and you know, just to meet with them, seeing if there's anything we can do. I explained to Chris kind of beforehand what I want to do, what my visions are, and son and Sanaka-san and my vision for what we wanted to accomplish was very similar. Uh, my vision is not only expanding the reach and audience of visual novels, but allowing um you know fan works from Japan an easier time of getting over to America, and along with a lot of other things, but it's definitely a lot. Um, with us having this meeting and our viewpoints aligning up really closely, and our our vision, it just kind of took from there. We started talking a lot over email. There was a huge group chat that we had, and we just kind of planned it out. We worked what kind of artists would come in and do pieces for us. Sanaka-san was definitely a great help with that, and I'm definitely really excited to show everybody the book that we've created.
So just in case if anyone kind of wants to like paint a picture of it with their mind, do you kind of like have you guys already printed it? Do you have like final kind of specs or whatever? Like what can we kind of expect in terms of the book if you're going to be there?
Oh, definitely. So the book is going to be on sale starting Saturday. Um, just due to the crunch time, because this
I mean,
this
listen. Even though we're a week before, I used to be in the world of printing. I'm very aware that I would still ask me like, so what are we looking at?
Oh, definitely. And the one thing with our convention being as early as it is, Comic-Con is this weekend. I think it starts tomorrow actually. Um, which would technically be today.
Hmm.
But um, it's gonna be I think it's 16-page total book. Um, filled with a lot of popular artists from both visual novels, and the Dojin circles. And so it's going to be something that's really quality. I'm actually looking at the pieces right now for it, um, and they're all very high quality. Something that's never really been seen, um, for a convention of our size before.
Well, yeah, I was gonna say because I like when I saw that you guys had announced you were working on a collab book for the anniversary. I thought that was a really cool idea because you've kind of seen that with like you basically took the idea of doing a fanzine but kind of did it in reverse. Whereas normally like a fanzine would be centered around like a group or company or like a game release done by the fans to give to the people who made the product. It's kind of in reverse.
Yeah, definitely. I wanted this to be a momentous occasion, not only for the convention, but for the community as well. It's definitely something that was very interesting, to me, just to kind of use it as a milestone of where Taiyou Con has come, and where it's gonna go.
Okay. Um, Weird question, just because I tried looking this up on the site, but I wasn't sure if do you know if anyone from Sekai Projects, maybe the like Western branch, or is there anyone actually going to be there from the company at all, or it pretty much was all this just remote planned?
So, there is. there is going to be a couple of their staff members that are coming. We are two of the artists that are coming, Amato Yuki and Yuki, um, who provided collaboration pictures, are going to be there as well.
Awesome. Yeah, yeah, because I saw with the artists and stuff for it, but so yeah, I'm sure that'll be a very popular thing in terms of getting the book and people wanting to get him signed by the two artists who are actually there.
Oh, definitely. I'm so excited to have everybody come and check it out too.
Okay, so a weird nitty gritty thing, but just because I'm always kind of curious how like this is sort of like handled for it. How difficult? I don't even know really if you were very involved with like the printing sort of side of it. How tough was it for you guys to kind of pick that number of how many books do we want to make? Because I think a thing that people don't often realize unless they've worked in like the world of like printing like actually high quality like books at all, or honestly as
Hmm.
soon as you get involved with color and you don't want it to feel like crap, even a 16 to like 20 page book can get like really expensive really quickly.
Oh, it was definitely. I kind of calculated that it was gonna be a little expensive, but definitely is something that we budgeted out for. Um, Normally we wanted it to be 12 pages, but then we thought about it and we talked it over and we're just like, yeah, this other um having it um be 18 pages would be for the best. And then the paper quality got upgraded as well. We also have a little jacket that goes on it. It's not a thick book, however, the quality is well worth the price point that it is, which will be announced at the convention.
Okay. Any idea like are you guys able to kind of talk about how many might exist or whatever? Like
Oh
are you
yeah.
guys kind of expecting like to be maybe a little more limited? Like how are we looking in terms of quantity if you can comment?
So we are printing 100 of these books. So at the moment, I do believe that there is a chance that they are going to sell out.
I was gonna say the realist in me now needs to ask the very important question. I'm used to buying things of very small numbers.
Yeah.
What is I'm hoping, and anyone else out there I'm sure is also asking this question. Will there be a one per customer limit?
More than likely,
Okay.
yes.
Okay.
If it's any higher, it'll maybe be two.
Okay. I know, and I know on the surface that like seems like from like if you're a listener, that seems like such a normal question to answer, but like to Michael and like anyone who's like involved with it, it's so hard to get that fear out of your head because you guys have never really done anything like this in terms of a project before.
That is
Like
correct, yes.
the thought of like, okay, we've never done this before. We know the number of people who are going to be there, but that number isn't a hey everyone's going to buy this book number. So like that fear of okay, is this going to sell out? Because at the end of the day, you don't want to be making like paper mache like tree houses out of the book at the end of the convention. You know, like
Yeah, yeah.
you want to make sure that they all sell out. So I totally understand that, and I even two is super fair, and like obviously it's one of those kind of wait and see things. Like obviously if like you lined up and there were like 200 people like right away on Saturday, it would be a thing that would change, but that's like in the very extreme side of things.
Oh, definitely. If they like if we started selling these on Saturday and then and then somebody, we see the line out the door, then we would probably make a decision based off of how many they want to that they are allowed to buy off at that point, to be 100% honest.
Yeah, we're not going to be having eBay list going up right away in the line.
Oh yeah. Oh, I
Oh,
mean, part of me would think that's a little endearing,
I
but
know, yeah,
like,
that's what I was just gonna say. Is like, is it at the same time though? That's got to be a weird thing of like, oh, dude, I made something and like someone wants it enough that they would like put it up for more money than it's worth. So that is kind of like that weird thing of like, there is that like kind of weird satisfaction of like, there's demand for something I put work into, but then you like go into the GameStop argument of like, oh wait, I'm not gonna make any of that money. Like, that should just go to somebody.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so that's always like a really weird one of I remember in the like early days of like companies like limited run games and stuff, when a release would like sell out in like 5 minutes of like 2 or 5,000 copies of a game, it'd be like, oh man, this is fantastic, way to go, and like the developers would be really happy. But then you'd have all these people who missed out, and it's like, do you congratulate them for being sold out? Should they have like just made more? It's like such like a weird thing of like, good, like congrats to everyone who got one, but it hurts even more if you didn't get one. It's a
Oh,
lose-lose
exactly.
situation.
Yeah, I know we like like the first time that Idea Factory did their own stuff for
um, sorry, I immediately know where you're going with this because you're gonna bring up Rebirth One Special Edition, right?
Yep.
Oh man, I'm sorry. That gives you like PTSD flashbacks of the Amazon webpage. Oh man,
Uh
yeah, that was before the days of hey, can supply meet demand, and also can we supply?
yeah.
Oh man,
Uh,
that was a interesting time to be a collector. I'm proud to say I own every NEP at least Vita collector's edition except that, because I've seen the prices it goes for, and that is not worth it. No one
it
should pay $1,000 for that game's collector's edition.
No, that game's not worth it, especially because they just re-released it as well.
Well, only in Japan. I know Rebirth One's PS4 port's supposed to come out in some time in English, but Idea Factory, I will say, it's been interesting watching them go from a company that was super heavy on Neptunia games during the Vita, and actually, honestly, if it wasn't for Rebirth, I would probably never have touched the series, because I remember, as a concept, for anyone who doesn't know, it's basically a anime waifu version of the console wars in terms
Hmm.
of Nintendo, Sony, Xbox, but this is also a like fantasy world that Sega still existed for the longest time, hence why Neptune is Neptunia. But I remember when the PS3 trilogy came out, it was like, okay, this is a great concept, but super lacking in a lot of ways, and then like
Hmm.
the Vita version basically saved the franchise from just being an obscure anime.
Yeah, exactly. Um, it's one of my favorite series, but I, yeah, no, I haven't had any desire to rush out and get any
It's
get the
it's
games
one of those
recently.
weird ones actually. Where, like I super agree with you in the sense of I think if someone asked me about Neptunia, I'd be like, you know what, that's like one of my probably my favorite series on Vita for sure. But something about when they started making like their most recent games, I saw a conversation of this like pop up on Twitter. One of my friends was like looking at the Metacritic score for Super Neptunia RPG, and was like, "Hey, what happened to like Neptunia game reviews? Because like they were never really bad." And it was one of those things of I don't think any of their games they put out like with Four Goddesses Online and
Hmm.
like V2R, I don't think they're bad. I just think I think they really underestimated how many people would follow them from the Vita and PC crowd to PS4.
Yeah, and the thing is, it's like Super Neptunia wasn't a bad game. Like if you like Child of Light, you would definitely love that game.
Also,
Um,
what a crazy like if you're that developer, because I forget the name of the dev, but like they're just like a small indie team from Canada. I don't know
yeah.
what black magic or like dirt they had on the studio there in Japan, but for like a small indie studio in Canada to make like a pretty drastically different Neptunia game is pretty cool, even depending on how you feel about the final product.
Yeah. I thought the game was really fun, but I can't think because I reviewed it, but I can't really remember it all that much. I just know um that it was just super different.
Hmm. Just in case if anyone's curious to like check out your stuff, because you mentioned you review like some gaming things, like where can people find your work for reviews?
Oh yeah. Um let me let me get it for you. But I write for this site called Con Freaks and Geeks. Um they they basically do a lot. They um not only do gaming reviews, but
Oh wow, I don't know why, but in my head, until you sent me the link, I was like, oh, the con is like for controller, like game controllers, not convention con.
Yeah.
Sorry, please continue.
No, it's all right.
I was very taken aback by that. I was ready for controller images in my head.
But they do everything from anime, comics, video games to conventions. But yeah, I know I do quite a lot of reviews for them. My most recently being this game called Tokyo Dark Remembrance.
That is awesome. I have actually never heard of this before. Well, the website, not the
Oh
not
yeah,
Tokyo
yeah.
Dark for it. No, that's really cool. Yeah, I will. That'll be on the show notes for anyone who wants to check it out as well, along with any of your stuff.
Oh, thank you, because I definitely do. I do a lot of visual novels and obscure games um reviews.
Oh man, I already approve of your guys' website. You have a built-in font size changer.
hmm
I can't even think of the last time I've seen that on a website. That's called user thinking, guys. That's someone with UI design cared about the website.
Yeah.
Um, that's awesome though. But I'm trying to think for it. Because boy, you are very easy to get sidetracked into talking for other stuff, which is fantastic. But I want to make sure if I hit anything else for it. So we have the 10th anniversary Sekai Projects book.
hmm
Any like other big like standouts that either you're really excited about, or if someone's listening to this, like you want them to like either check out or look into.
Really, it's just the Taiyou Con Rumble. We have like Taiyou Con Rumble can be enjoyed even if you're not at the convention. We're gonna have two streams for our games. Um, our Samurai Showdown tournament is sponsored, given prize support from SAK or SNK.
I was like, who is
Um,
SAK? That's very close.
um, there, so S SAK is a group in Arizona
Oh,
that
SAK
does a
is a real thing?
yeah, they do a lot of Smash events, and they're helping with our gaming this year.
Okay,
But
that typo makes way more sense now, because I was like, oh, okay, SNK is what you meant.
but SNK is also providing prize support for our Samurai Showdown tournament.
Which, by
Um,
the way, if anyone here has never watched like competitive or even just people just playing casuals, Samurai Showdown is up there with like Tekken 7 and Soul Calibur. In my opinion, is like super fun to watch because especially with Samurai Showdown, it is so tense some of those matches.
oh, it is so much fun, but um I have never been as stressed out playing Samurai Showdown than I have playing other games. It is probably my favorite fighting game at the moment.
I'm like a really weird and when I mean weird, I mean bad SNK fan.
Mhm.
I planned on picking up the PS4 version when it came out, but just haven't really gotten a chance to like sink my teeth into it. Whereas a lot of people locally have been playing it. Like I honestly I haven't like touched it at all. I've watched people play. Like I watched the Evo for it. Like the Evo for it was fantastic, especially because
Mhm.
all the old like Street Fighter 4 pros who like basically picked up that game after after 5 was 5 for so many years.
Yeah.
So like I need to touch that game, and it's really funny because like I've been so late in the game for it that like it's already come to like Switch and like freaking Google Stadia, which by the way, good luck anyone who wants to play that game on Google Stadia. Uh, but yeah, man, that's like one of my biggest regrets, like in terms of fighting games this year, because I like to play almost as many of them as I can. It was
Mhm.
Samurai Showdown and weirdly enough, Power Rangers Battle for the Grid.
You know, I Well, I don't play that a lot. I don't actually own it. It is actually a really good game.
I've heard
Like,
nothing but good stuff about that, and unfortunately, I haven't played it because I knew a physical version was coming. I ordered the physical version through Limited Run Games, like they announced at E3. I think it
mhm.
is somewhere close to being shipped to me, but due to wintertime, I'm sure I'll get it like mid-January at this point.
Yeah.
The thing that sucks more than anything is like it was supposed to come with the first season and some like bonus DLC on the disc for it. I'm like, okay, I
Mhm.
waited all this time, it'll be worth it. It's been delayed so much that now season 2 has already came and went, and people who already have the disc version found out that there was an error on the Switch and PS4 versions, and that not all the DLC's on there. I'm like, oh
no.
Like, come on.
Limited run games have seemed like they've been having a little bit of issues recently.
I have a whole video planned out about about limited run. That is a much longer conversation for another time. But yeah, there have been lots of things slip through the cracks when you release over 100 games in 365 days.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's disappointing, but I've heard nothing but good things for it, so at the very least I can enjoy my 7 roster game for it. And in case anyone's curious, just because I figured I pulled up the info right here on Taiyou Con Rumble, the games that'll be there are DOA 6, Dragon Ball FighterZ, Guilty Gear XR Rev 2, Sam Show, Street Fighter V Arcade, and Smash Ultimate, because it's not an anime convention without Smash Brothers, Tekken 7, Under Night In-Birth, and I don't feel brave enough to say the rest of it somehow, but we all know which one I'm talking
about. Yeah, it's definitely the nice thing about that is this year as well we did a community poll to see what game what other game was going to be added to our list.
Oh.
Last year for our first tournament I ran 11 games and it was awful. I mean, the tournament ran really well, but it was definitely something that was
super long or super hard to keep organized.
Super hard to keep organized,
yeah.
Just because that was a lot of games.
Yeah, I mean, was that the first year of you guys doing Rumble?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, that's very brave of you to start with 11.
So we changed it down to 8, and we the last game was chosen through a community poll.
Which one was the community poll? I'm guessing it was either DOA or Under Night.
It's Dead or Alive, yes.
Okay, man, yeah. Don't sleep on Dead or Alive fans, guys. That community is not the biggest, but they're I think one step underneath SNK fans in terms of their fever and dedication.
Oh, we've got some of the here in Phoenix.
Yeah, so. Oh man, yeah. 2019 was a crazy year for fighting games in terms of I feel a lot of really small ones I wouldn't have thought would get a lot of attention kind of overtook interest in stuff. If you told me I would be more excited to play a Power Rangers fighting game than playing new characters from Dragon Ball FighterZ, I would doubt you. But I mean, it's kind of weird. Criticizing Dragon Ball FighterZ is really odd because they at its core is still a really great game, but that game's meta is just in a really weird place, which has kind of brought a thing of okay, well, it's not dead, but it's in kind of that Street Fighter V zone of it's very sterile. People are too intimidated by it to ever pick it up, so they kind of have to put out a new game at this point for anyone to really touch it again.
Yeah, I know. At least I think Broly might give it a little bit more. I know a lot of people are still playing it here in Phoenix. But it's definitely declined a little bit since the games come out.
So, assuming this goes a lot smoother, and I have a very strong feeling it will than last year with the Titan games, guessing that 2021 Taiyou Con Rumble is going to be a thing, I'm probably going to try and rig your guys' vote because the lack of Persona 4 Ultimax is very disheartening.
Oh, definitely. That actually came up in conversation beforehand. But I can actually tell you something about 2021 already.
Exclusive.
Exclusive.
Keith is very jealous right now.
In 2021, there's a building that we've never used at the convention center before. It's kind of off to the side across the parking lot.
Hold on, so not connected?
Not connected.
Oh, what?
However...
I'm trying to think what building you're talking about now.
So, I'll point it out to you as well.
Okay, I'm looking at the map on it right now, so I think I kind of know which one you're talking about for it. So what? So what's the mystery building plan?
So that is actually going to be our gaming space next year.
Oh, yeah.
Because
I guess as long as it's been the last couple of years, it's been located kind of in the middle of the entranceway and in between the panels and stuff.
Yes, that is correct. So
Oh,
I'm
sorry.
sorry. Go ahead.
No, you go.
Yeah. So basically, the Rumble is going to be the Rumble are some of our late night special events are going to be located in that building. Um, so what I'm going to be able to do is I'm going to be able to plan the tournament more as its own thing, separated from the rest of the convention. So if people wanted to come just for the tournament, they wouldn't necessarily have to buy a convention badge. They can buy a tournament badge. Um, or they can, still buy a full badge and go to the tournament as well.
Okay, so like the Evo of anime conventions, as opposed to CEO Otaku, which is the makes an anime convention out of a fighting game tournament.
Exactly, yes.
That's a really good idea, especially because it's always kind of weird, because I don't think anyone at most anime conventions ever really wonder why there's always like the fighting game room, or, as I joked earlier, like there's usually like a dedicated Smash area, because it's like there is a lot of crossover between like the fans and stuff for it, but there are definitely like those people when it comes to, oh, I like playing games, like when you kind of make the game room also the fighting game room, it's like, hey, I really like playing dancing games or rhythm games, but I don't want to be around people like yelling at like Street Fighter.
Oh, exactly. And it's just like there are some people who don't want to who don't want to, are only going to be there um are only going to be there um for the tournament and do nothing else.
Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, I have too many loves in my life, so I'm in that perpetual battle of, when it comes to anime conventions, if I had it my way, I would want to be socializing as much as possible. That's at the very bottom of the list. And then try and get as much content, like in terms of meeting new people, interviewing people, participating in like game tournaments, and like if it was like up to me, I would participate in as many panels as I was legally allowed on.
Yeah.
So it's always like one of those weird things of like, oh, like, because I have so many, like, most of my friends who will go to a convention, especially like anime conventions, it's like, we cosplay, we hang out, that's all we do. I'm like, how do you just do that? Like, it just boggles my mind of just like, oh yeah, we bought these tickets basically just so we could sit here and take pictures with everybody. And I'm like, oh my god, you're wasting your time. But then at the same time, people will see me, and the idea of a panel just seems like the most mundane, boring thing ever to them, because it's just one of those weird things of like, not everything is for everybody.
Exactly. No, I definitely feel that, because back when before I was doing my directing and everything, yeah, basically, I ran so many panels, I couldn't, I didn't feel like doing anything else,
Mm-hmm.
It was like, oh, I'm gonna put effort into this and do this, and I'm not gonna do anything else. But that's how I enjoyed my convention.
Mm-hmm.
So,
I'm trying to think anything else really for it. What, this is a weird personal one, but just because you piqued my interest by mentioning that you also did panels in the past, what's like the last panel you were on yourself, and what was it about?
um, I used to run a couple of different panels. Um, I don't remember the last one that I was on per se, but I used to run this really near the end, before I got really busy. I used to run visual novel panels, and I used to run this 18 plus panel called Let's Play an Arrow Game. And basically, we would have our audience voice the hentai scenes, and it was a good time for everybody. Rooms was always packed. I did it, in Arizona. I did it in Las Vegas. I did it in California.
I'm feeling FOMO just hearing you talk about it already.
Oh man, I kind of want to bring it back.
I gotta say, I'm kind of surprised. I've been trying to, and I was going to pitch this to Taiyou Con, but I just totally slipped on the submission before the panel cutoff date. And I hope someone accepts it at like a future convention for basically, it's like half visual novel recommendations for beginners / kind of book club talk. In terms of, like, there's such a huge crossover between, like, anime fans who go to conventions and people who play games. And visual novels is that one that I think strikes so many people, but just because it's not, like, there's niche games, and then there's visual novels. Like, the fact that visual novels have been rising in popularity all these years, and still no major website actually ever gives them any, like, shout out is, like, super, super sad.
Oh, I am trying to change that with everything that I do. And it's sad because it's such a enriching experience, but people don't want to give it the time of day.
It's true. And it's really funny because my whole inspiration for that panel, do you know the gaming, like, YouTube channel called Easy Allies?
I've heard of them, yes.
So basically, do you remember GameTrailers.com from, like, forever ago?
Yes.
So all the people who got fired when GameTrailers.com got shut down all basically just, like, made their own thing independently. And one of the questions towards, like, Game of the Year time was, why is there never, like, a shout out or, like, any sort of mention for visual novels? Because there is honestly, my Game of the Year this year, before Death Stranding came out was The House in Fata Morgana. That game was so good to me and has struck me so hard that, like, it's still, like, my top 3 games of the year.
You know, every time I look at it, I'm like, every time I look at it, I'm just like, I'm gonna pick this up. I'm gonna do this. And I haven't taken the plunge on it.
It is so good in so many ways, and I don't know if it just came out at a weird time or, like, what for it. Like, I tried like, I mean, I'm still trying to, like, advocate for that game, and by the way, I'm super duper duper biased for it, mainly in the sense of it was one of the last Vita games that came out physically. I know, like, one of the, like, 3 guys who worked on the English port. Like, one day, like, because one of the guys who worked on bringing over the English version, I've been trying to get on this podcast forever because he's also an SMT fan. He used to work for Limited Run Games. And the story of that development, I want to get out there so bad, because basically what happened was the original developer in Japan had the translation ready for the PC version for a couple of years, and they were planning on slowly making a brand new version, because there is a version on Vita, and they just released a version on PS4 in Japan. But the version that came out in English wasn't just going to be hey, here's the English text version. It was, like, whole new UI, like, 4K assets, like, crazy, crazy, crazy changes for it. And they basically had to do what they were planning on doing for a 2-year dev cycle in about 6 to 9 months. And the fact that it came out and there's been no bugs is, like, kind of a miracle.
Yeah. The more and more I learn about the localization and the translation that everything goes to for visual novels, everybody really thinks that they're super simple, or it's a super easy process to do this, but it's actually a lot of work.
Yeah,
it
could not be farther from the truth. Like, I feel like, honestly, sometimes, like, they're probably one of the hardest games to localize, just in the sense of, like, they are so text heavy.
I can't.
I gotta ask you real quick, just because we've been going around the visual novel conversation so far. What got you started with visual novels?
Now that I think about it, so there was this. Do you remember back on the Nintendo DS when companies would take risks, kind of?
You make it sound like the DS was the boldest era in gaming, but yes, I know what you're talking about.
I mean, you have things like
Hotel Dusk,
Hotel Dusk,
Trauma Center. I understand the sentiment. I get it.
So there was, I mean, people can say it's an adventure game. but I really got hooked on visual novels. And looking back at it now, this game is
Oh
terrible.
no. Can I
Um,
guess what it is? I think I know what you're gonna say.
Go for it.
Is it Feel the Magic?
No, it's not.
Okay.
However, uh, I did find a sealed copy at a Best Buy near me for $14 last week.
It's okay. I have you one upped. I found I don't even remember what it was. I found a third-party PlayStation 2 game from 2006 in between two like stands at Best Buy, and I went up to the guy and was like, "This is like $40 still." I'm like, "How has this not been phased out of your SKUs?"
Yeah, and I looked at that. I thought about it. I'm like, this is only $14. This game is 14 years old. Is it still there? The game that I guess got me hooked into visual novels was Lux Pain.
Oh, really? Who published that? I know what game that is, but I'm like totally drawing a blank.
Ignition or Marvelous Entertainment, I guess.
That's really crazy. I totally forgot about that game.
Well, there's a reason why you forgot about it. It's because it's bad. Um, but then I went on to other, mostly at the time, Eroge, um, that got me more deeper into visual novels.
Hmm. So, bold question number two. What is your preferred platform of visual novel?
You know, it depends on the visual novel I'm playing.
You have like some
Um,
examples?
so if it's something that has adult content in it, I mean, it's got to be on PC because it's only going to be on PC. But I'm finding myself, I honestly think that the Switch is the perfect console for visual novels. It's it's portable. It's basically got everything that you need for it. Um, and I really like it that more American devs are starting to, or not American devs, but publishers are starting to take that chance on porting over visual novels
I
to.
mean, when I saw that D3 after all these years was finally putting out all their BL games on the Switch's eShop, I was like, wow, that was really surprising to me in terms of like them hopping onto that because D3's American side is so weird in terms of what they choose to publish and what they don't.
And I, I every so often I go around the eShop store to see if there's anything that I wanna get, but like playing Clanad or playing these other Japanese visual novels on the Switch is just outstanding to me because I never thought that I would have that chance here in America to do that.
So I'm just kind of curious because I've brought it up a few times before, but I haven't actually asked for it. Do you have a PlayStation Vita at all?
I do, yes. I don't use it a lot anymore. But I did really enjoy it when I did use it.
I'm in this like really weird camp of like I super like got pulled away from my Vita in a way I kind of wasn't expecting when the Switch launched. But the one thing that I've never really thought kind of like I couldn't ever really justify is playing visual novels on it, preferring it more there as opposed to the Vita just cuz it's bigger in terms of the screen, but I've never felt like I just because of how portable the Vita screen was, it like hit that perfect kind of thing of like it's about the size of my phone screen and I can still put it like in my pocket, you know?
Yeah.
Whereas like the Switch is like okay, it has that kind of beat for it in terms of like screen size, but like I don't know, it's kind of like weird of like I enjoy that like one-handed play kind of side of like all right, I can just tap on the screen to progress, put it on auto read. Whereas like I've never understood kind of playing visual novels on the big screen. It always kind of felt to me like how um people who prefer physical books as opposed to like e-readers, I've always kind of like felt like playing like a visual novel on like a bigger screen just kind of felt not super needed to me unless that was like an experience I could really only get there. And also the backlog is still really hard to compare, even with how popular the Switch has been. There are like so many visual novels I haven't even like touched, even just English ones that are like still only on the Vita.
Yeah, oh, definitely. Like I wish that a lot of them would be ported to the Switch, but I know that's not going to be
I mean,
like
honestly, I
that's
wouldn't be surprised. What are some that you would want to come to the Switch? Because outside of like maybe two or three, I think a lot of them have a good chance of coming.
well, I know it wasn't on Vita. This is more of a 3DS and a DS one.
Oh god,
Um,
now that's a platform I forget has visual novels.
I want Higurashi on Vita, or not Vita, forgive me, on the
What
Switch.
what series is that from?
Higurashi?
Yeah, I'm like trying to like put, is that an Idea Factory series?
No, it is a seventh expansion. They did,
Oh, yes. Okay, yeah, I got it pulled up right here for it. Oh, wow. I forgot all about that. That was on 3DS?
yeah, it was either on 3DS or DS.
Wow. I've totally forgot about that for it. Like like honestly, I feel like half the backlog I haven't touched is all like the entirety of Idea Factory's visual novels, which
Yeah,
I cannot believe that they just gave so many of those for access to publish. I feel like they really like, unless like they just didn't think they had like the money to localize it fast enough, like they have such a gold mine still coming out in Japan in terms of visual novels
yeah.
that they don't sit on. I mean that they're just sitting on in terms of like really big ones. Like I know a big one that almost came to the West, but because of Sony's like recent change stuff, I remember Idea Factory was actually really close to getting a English version of Diabolic Lover or Diabolic Vampires, because I know that one's really popular.
I I am misinformed.
Oh, how so?
Higurashi did come out to the Switch, but not in America.
I mean, I understand that. I'm more. So did Higurashi come out in English DS release?
No, we never got the DS in English. I think
Okay,
the
I think
only
that's where I was getting confused from it. Of like, I saw the cover, but I was like, I cannot imagine this getting a localized release.
no, it never did. Um, oh, that's right. But it is on Steam and whatnot, so it has come out here.
Who's the publisher on the Western version?
Manga Gamer is.
Oh, okay. So big recommendation for you in case you have not played them. I'm sure you've probably played the Steam version of Muv-Luv, considering your history.
I yes, I have.
Okay, so one, two, and three, or any of the other expansions, or like what? Because I know like you can't really just recommend one from that
Yeah.
series.
No, I played the first one.
Okay, so okay, now I have to ask the weirder thing because the way this game is split up. It's a trilogy that's split into two games, which makes it really confusing. So does that mean you've beaten the first Muv-Luv and Extra, or just Muv-Luv?
Just Muv Love.
Okay, so I'm sure you've gotten the spiel, but in case anyone out there, please beat Extra. Extra is really weird, and then beating Extra makes alternate. Just like it goes from this is a great 7 to it goes to masterpiece level.
Oh, definitely. And I always wanna try for it as well.
Yeah, that's a weird one where unless something crazy happens, I have a hard time seeing that coming to other platforms anytime soon. Because I
Oh, yeah.
know that Jesus, the Kickstarter campaign for Muv-Luv to finally get an English release was very long and very laborious. Lots of publishers switching around. I mean, I don't know if you were following it very well, like with your like, because at a time the original plan was Sekai Project was going to publish it. I think they published at least the first two on PC, and then the rights got back to the original Japanese devs, and that game's release was just like hot potato for like 2 years.
Oh yeah, I know. I was watching over it for a little bit, and then I got super busy and I forgot about it. But like, I it was tough.
Fun, weird fact that most people don't know about this. Before
Mhm.
the Vita version got picked up by P-Cube, originally Sekai Project was actually going to have limited run games put out the Vita version
Hmm.
because there was a physical one backed for the longest time, and man, I would love to find all the parties involved with that and actually get a timeline because they went so dark. And not like visual novel Kickstarter dark, like super dark for the longest time. Like people were straight up just thinking it was just vaporware canceled because of like how long the console port took. But
I know.
that being said though, like I think Ages, the developer, did just announce like a 10th anniversary thing they're doing for Steam, which is basically like all their projects into one. That series just seems so popular. It would be really hard for me to believe it would never come to Switch. But it's also hard because I don't know any U.S. company who would port it, and I know that that developer is so small. Like they basically had to have PQ port it, or else that game was never coming out.
Oh yeah, it was. I really, I really enjoy with how everything's coming together. It's definitely looking at more companies that are looking at ways to actually bring out stuff like this. So honestly, I'm hopeful that something like that will come out here.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but it's just a matter of time.
I will say this because I brought up Fata Morgana earlier. If you like, are you someone who likes all like the tchotchkes and feelies from like a collector's edition, or are you pretty much just like all digital for visual novels in most games?
So it depends because I normally prefer to get a physical edition when it comes to my visual novels.
Mm-hmm.
Not for not for the sense of the collectibles that come with it, because I mean at the end of the day it's just more stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I really like the way it looks on my shelf. But depending on like what the visual novel is, sometimes I'm like, well, I don't really care for it enough to go out and search for a physical edition. But like with the Kara no Shoujo series or
Oh,
some other
okay.
or some other games put out by Manga Gamer, Jazz, Sekai Project, I go out of my way to not play it until I can have the physical edition.
Okay, so I'm gonna bring this up to you. I don't know if it's gonna scratch your itch at all, but did you see the collector's edition that the House and Fata Morgana got for PlayStation 4 and Vita?
I didn't see the PlayStation. I didn't actually see that, to be 100% honest with
No, you're
you.
fine. So that was like break the internet levels of how horrible that sale was in terms of how many people wanted it and how few there was.
Hmm.
Which is really funny because on the outside it doesn't sound super exciting. It was the game, a poster, soundtrack, and art book.
Hmm.
The art book is not hardcover, it's softcover, but it's like 80 plus pages. And if you've ever seen the art from the House in Fata Morgana, it is stupidly good.
You know what? I did see that actually.
Yeah, and on top of that, and this is what sold me because I'm a huge like video game soundtrack like junkie. It has the whole soundtrack for all of the games because the Vita port is actually like three games in one, or might even be like more. It's like all the expansions like tied into one. It is a 6 disc soundtrack. Is
Oof.
super beefy. That sold out crazy fast. The developer actually has a Patreon for their English office, and they're just selling their English copies at like full MSRP. But they're a small
Hmm.
dev, and nobody like knows they even have a Patreon. So if you are interested and don't want to pay out the butt for that, and actually want to support the dev, like if you check out, I think their name is Novasil or like Novakill, but I mean if you just look up like House of Fata Morgana like Patreon or something, like they still have the PS4 and the Vita version available. Could not recommend that enough, just in terms of like the collector's edition contents alone. On top of the fact that the game is fantastic, 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 and not enough
Hmm.
people have played it. Um, Outside of Raging Loop, like what are some other ones you like played in 2019 that kind of stood out to you?
Well, I played a lot actually.
You
Um,
will lose points if you did not play Shibuya Scramble. I'm just saying.
I lost points with you then.
Oh no! How did you not play that? That was like the weirdest release of the year outside of Kemco. Like, who thought the live action visual novel would ever come out in English?
Because it was on Vita. I know it came out
No,
on
that
PS4.
was
It came out
yeah.
on PS4.
That was the hardest one for me. Of like, it's
Oh
a
no!
PS4 exclusive like retail release. I was like,
How did I
okay.
miss this?
I mean,
Oh,
it goes on sale quite often.
so I looked at it. I was thinking about getting it, and I just never had the chance to. Because when did this come out? When did this come out in America? God, this is a name I didn't think I'd hear today. Oh, I remember. No, September. No, I don't have an excuse. Nope, no excuse for me.
That's
Because I was
okay.
gonna.
I appreciate the honesty at least.
Um, yo, actually, I'm actually gonna go out and play this game right now because this is what inspired Kanon.
Yeah, that's all, that. Out of all of them, I would have thought Shibuya Scramble would have been the one for you. And actually, I also probably just lost points because hold on. I think that actually came out in 2018,
It did.
and I'm a fake gamer. Yep, came out December. No, that's the JP release. But yeah, that is a super great game that actually really weirdly enough has Shin Megami Tensei tie-in.
Hmm.
The one of the old localizers for Sega, he actually might still do contract work. One of the old localizers for the Shin Megami Tensei Digital Devil Saga sister novel. He translated that.
Hmm.
His name's Kevin Frang. He's actually been on the podcast before. He translated that game as like a super big passion project. And
Hmm.
yeah, that is a super weird game, but I cannot recommend enough in terms of it's really a miracle that game ever came out in America.
Oh yeah.
It is some really funny dialogue. Also, holy crap, I'm looking at the platforms this came out on. In Japan, it came out on the Wii.
Oh yeah. That's because that's what I remember seeing it
That is so
on.
weird. Oh my gosh.
Um, but probably the best visual novel that I've played this year. Honestly, some people are gonna say that it's an adventure game. But I'm gonna make sure that I pronounce this correctly. Hold on. It's got to be the Solomon Files or
Okay, so I'm
Solomon
not kidding
Files.
you here. The way I format this show,
Hmm.
at least in the latest incarnation of it I've done in 2019, it has
Hmm.
been me and a new guest every episode. We are on week 4 of that game getting brought up by different people, not brought up by me at all.
Honestly, it's the review the it is so forgive me. The site that I do reviews for, and I'm super far behind on this as well. Um, asked us what our game of the year was, and honestly, I think this game's near a masterpiece.
I am sad that I haven't beaten it, but I'm at least enough of a Zero Escape fan to know that I can't feel that guilty as long as I buy it because that's usually those
Hmm.
games' biggest problems.
Well,
Um,
the thing is it released
First in
it
English.
released first in English, first digitally, a small release physically. That sold out within I think it's like within a couple days, and then the company is just like, "Oh, I guess we're gonna do another release then."
Hmm.
But like this game is my game of the year,
That's
hands down. The only thing that I found that was a problem with it is that some of the sound effects didn't necessarily match the tone of what was going on screen.
man. I gotta say my big one. And this is kind of related because it is a Spike Chunsoft game. I really want to play Zenki Zero,
Hmm.
the one that was worked on by both the Zero Escape guy and Danganronpa.
Hmm.
I'm in that weird stubborn space of like I know the Vita version existed in Japan, so I'm like I think I know English well enough to like try and muster that game because that game's like almost more mystery dungeon with visual novel elements. But
Yeah.
like even that game I've heard like a lot of really good stuff for, but that English release got like I feel like no one even knows that that game came out this year unless you were paid to.
I um I keep looking at it and I'm like, I think I'm gonna do it, and I never end up doing it.
A lot of good people are in that. It has a fantastic English voice cast.
Hmm.
Um, any other like big ones that kind of stand out to you besides AI?
Raging Loop, of course. Um, we finally got uh that HD remaster, or it's not an HD remaster, the remake of was very good.
Why am I blanking on this?
So it's a visual novel,
Yeah, I know it.
but
I feel like because when you said it, it like brought it. Oh my god! I forgot this came out. How
yeah,
did? Yeah, that's another Spike
it
Chunsoft game, right?
yeah, it is.
Wow, you know a girl who chants love at the bounds of this world. Wow, what a title. I forgot that came out. That's not Switch only, is it? I think that was also PS4.
No, that's PS4. I reviewed it on PS4.
Another PlayStation Vita game that got snubbed, thanks. Oh, this is a. Yeah, you're right. It's like a remake re release because first came out on PC Engine, Sega Saturn, and Windows. Then the remake was on Vita, PS4, now on Switch.
Hmm.
Wow, I forgot all about seeing this because this got announced last year at AX.
Hmm.
Wow,
The anime just started too.
that is crazy. I forgot all about this. And normally I pride myself on knowing the weird visual novels that don't come out in America. That's really, really crazy. One of my actually biggest shames that came out this year, just because I tried to will its physical version into existence, was the sequel to. Um, why am I forgetting its main name? I guess. Oh man, I'm forgetting. The game I'm talking about is NG, but I'm trying to remember the one that came out last year. What it's called? Like Spirit Hunter or Death
Oh,
Marked?
oh yeah, Deathmark.
Yeah, Deathmark sequel NG. Like I'm talking about another visual novel game that just has insane art. Like that one got fantastic, fantastic reviews, but I somehow in my weird demented head think it is possible for me to get ask access to get an Asian release because the a chance of that physical happening is still available. They just have to get the parties like warranted on there. But everyone I know who's played that like this year has just said like that's also like one of the like standout ones. Did you play Deathmark last year?
Yes, I did play Deathmark. It was actually the first physical Switch game that I bought. I bought it on Black Friday last year.
I don't know if you've
Um,
seen this.
or wasn't Black Friday?
The
When was that?
Japanese cover for Deathmark is so creepy and so much better than the English one.
But you know what? I Oh yeah, no, I've seen the Japanese copy, but like I a couple things bugged it about me, and I don't know if it was fixed in this new game, but like how if you didn't get if you didn't do the correct choice, there was no easy way to go back. Basically, um like if you accidentally had one of your partners died,
Oh
then you
yeah,
get
like
the bad
like
ending.
unless you were save scumming. Yeah, that's kind of
Yeah.
that's a weird one for me to mentally get over, especially in those multi-choice visual novels where I usually play 99% of my games with one save slot for everything.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's always like a tough one to break me for it, but I actually thankfully got a lot better at that in House of Fata Morgana because they have like literally 3 different save systems. There's
Hmm.
quick saves that it loads, there's manual saves that it loads, and then there's auto saves that it loads. So you have like at least 3 different ways for you to go back if you like forget to do
Hmm.
something.
I'm just a little upset because there's the Switch version of Deathmarked um has the DLC already into it, but you can't access that if you don't get the best ending.
Oh, really? So this is
Yeah.
weird. The Vita version actually doesn't have it on the cart. Even though it was ready, it was just kind of easier for them to take the Japanese file. So like you had to buy it as DLC, and I actually haven't bought the DLC for Deathmark yet.
Hmm.
That's weird that you have to get the best ending for that. I say that's weird, but to be fair, visual novels I feel like have such a history of like to seeing usually all the best stuff you have to like go out of your way the most.
Yeah. But I'm just like, I don't want to play through the whole game just to get the good ending, just to
No,
play this one extra chapter.
no, I
I'm
I
like,
understand that.
the game's good, but I don't feel like I don't feel like I need to play it again.
Man, you have really like got a you've like got like me very sad and very excited at the same time now that like I know is for that came out because wow that I totally let that just slip under my radar.
It's good. Honestly, it's a really good game. It's a little confusing at points before you know what you're supposed to do. Um, but it's definitely something that you should definitely check out.
It's really too bad that Spike Chunsoft just has $0 to market their games.
Uh, you got to take it at some point, you know.
I mean, I get it, and especially for stuff like this, but I feel like their releases are all so niche and stuff that like I don't know if they just decide to just kind of let the game speak for themselves, which obviously has its own merits. And there are all companies out there who I think blow way too much money on marketing, like Atlus and Sega, like spend so much money on marketing things that do not need to be marketed, where then they just let other games just totally die at the stake.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh! So I think we should start wrapping up. Otherwise, we're just gonna make this our debut episode of our visual novel podcast.
Oh man, I
Not that that would be a bad thing because man, if I had more people like around me who were like playing cuz like I have a lot of friends who play visual novels. They are unfortunately slow as nails
yeah.
and like I pretty much go at the pace of like I almost kind of play all visual novels like how when I'm reviewing them of like I go at a good enough pace but I try and like give myself okay, get this far by every day.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're just going to be playing like for the next 3 months.
Oh, definitely. That's how I am as well. I normally spend a lot of time
I gotta say
with them.
though, it's really
But
funny that we got on the subject of visual novels, just because I have been thinking of a video idea that I really want to do for my channel in terms of like, I guess it would be half sort of editorial slash like video essay of for the longest time I thought my first debut into visual novels was Danganronpa 2.
mhm.
Because for the longest time, I'd never really played a visual novel, and it'd always been on my radar, but I just kind of dismissed them in terms of not really for me. Most of them, in fact, this is still the case, are not dubbed, and I don't really want to just read through like a million and one subtitles.
Mhm.
And I literally only got into Danganronpa because the site I was writing for at the time, that sadly doesn't exist anymore, had a extra code for Danganronpa 2 to review. And I was like, you know what? I'll be that weird guy who starts with the sequel and somehow got me into that series. And I really lucked out because that's one of those rare games that you can actually play the second one without any knowledge of the first and somehow still come out fine on the other side.
Mhm.
But no, I thought that was my first visual novel for the longest time until I realized my first visual novel I ever played was actually Persona 3 Portable.
Yeah, that actually, well, it is a an RPG. It's such a huge um it has such a huge visual novel aspect to it. And I really love what they did with Persona 3 Portable too.
Yeah, because that's like one of Atlus's like strengths have always been uh, developing for the hardware and like making almost like the impossible possible, and not even that, but like really excelling more than you would think, of like what should have been a more limited port has almost been universally agreed upon, that even though it doesn't have all the content, like it doesn't have anything from FES in it, like most people would probably agree Persona 3 Portable is the definitive version of that game, which is really
Oh yeah.
crazy when you think about it. But I mean, the fandom, like in their love at the very least for like female protagonists, like, and how like when she came back in Persona Q2, like even though that game didn't get like the craziest like reception or like critical sales, when she got announced, that was a bigger deal than Persona 3, 4, and 5 coming together. The fact that she was coming back was a bigger deal.
Yeah, no, that was I please forgive me. I just found a visual novel on Steam that I didn't know got an English release.
You got to share it with us. What's the title?
It's The Princess, the Stray Cat, and the Matters of the Heart too.
Who's the developer? That actually sounds familiar.
What? What? The developer is Tokyo Tune.
Okay, that's why that sounds familiar, because I remember aware of some of the other stuff for it. But yeah, going back to Persona 3 Portable, and I'm obviously gonna have a lot more to say like in my video for this, but I remember in the Western like media coverage of Persona games for the longest time, it was dating sim meets RPG, and that was the easy kind of, hey, this is the IGN way of describing what these Persona games are like to like the common person, which in a sense makes sense and you kind of understand it until you sort of play them and realize like, no, it's way more of a walk around 3D life sim slash visual novel, but with the way
Hmm.
that they constrained it into basically text and menu based locations for everything outside of Tartarus was so smart, because like, while yeah, that was a budgetary restriction, like that entire story is presented as just a visual novel. You're not walking to
Hmm.
places, you're going to things when like the story wants you to. You're looking at all the text events with like talking heads to you. And it's really crazy, because I think that's the sign of a really, really great game, when it's introducing me to a genre I'd been super dismissive and almost probably knew nothing of at the time. Like probably when Persona 3 Portable came out, my my brain when it came to visual novels would be 999. That would be it.
Hmm.
As like, oh, that's that weird game I don't play because it just had a lot of text. Uh,
Hmm.
so I really want to do a video kind of diving deeper to that in terms of like the weird psychology, whether even that was like on purpose or not. Because I bet if you go back and look, because I haven't done the research for this, I bet zero reviews at the time use the word visual novel for Persona 3 Portable's review, when that's about
Hmm.
50% of that game.
Definitely. I feel the same way. I know I didn't necessarily play a lot of it beforehand, just because I didn't really own it. Um, but it was definitely something that if I knew more about it now, I would sink my teeth into a lot more than the PS3 or PS2 version of it.
See, this is one of those weird ones of like, it's kind of also hard to recommend because you can only play it on two platforms. Well, at least like legally. Whereas like PSP or Vita, and like obviously it's
Hmm.
like still works for that, but like if that's not really one of your daily drivers, you're not gonna want to bust out your PSP or Vita just to play it.
Yeah.
Well, I guess you know what? I did the impossible. We started with a very long introduction into your history of Persona and Shin Megami Tensei. We talked for
Hmm.
about half of it about Taiyou Con. Everyone go to it next week. We then ranted for almost an hour about visual novels, and then I somehow found a way to bring it all the way back into Persona related content. So I think that's a good natural place to start winding the show down.
I think so too. If that's what you think, I'll go ahead and follow your lead.
It's very Lemmings like of you. Thank you. So Michael, where can everybody find you online, and where can they like find all the information about TaioCon if they want to just listen and not look at the show notes?
So basically, they can go to taiyocon.com, uh, taiyocon on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. Um, you can find me at Dojima. It's a little special because somebody took it before I could get my actual tag. So it's DOIJMA.
Hmm.
So the I and the J are switched. And yeah, I feel bad for people who would always try to spell it the correct way. And they just keep tagging this one Japanese guy.
Well, it just shows that you're a not super literate, really big fan of Dojima from Persona 4 at the very least.
Exactly. He that they got me into the series. I really like hard-boiled detectives,
Oh
and
man, it's gonna give. You gotta give a shout out to Dojima. I don't think he gets enough love. Like, I feel like it's very easy to remember Persona 4 and all of its Mimi characters and how cute Nanako is and how much of a goofball Yu is. But Dojima doesn't get enough respect in terms of he was that perfect mixture of hard-boiled detective slash dad.
yeah, and I think he's a really good dad.
He is a good dad. He is such a good dad that he definitely makes up for being somewhat of a lacking detective in terms of not detecting his partner.
Oh yeah.
um, but yeah, so besides that, also everybody, in case you're curious, episode you're listening to is uploaded on Friday. Taiyou Con goes from Friday, January 3rd, 4th, and 5th, correct?
Yes, that is correct.
Awesome. And if you are somehow only able to pick one day or so, we're gonna be really mean and say you should go for splurge on the Saturday pass so you can get a chance at that
Hmm.
book before you have FOMO. The book FOMO is gonna be real. I'm just gonna call it right now.
Oh, I'm super excited to show everybody.
But yeah, besides that, you can follow the podcast on Twitter at SMT Network. You can follow me on Twitter. I'm at Torchwood4SP. We have a Facebook group. You can go to facebook.com/groups/SMT Network to join the group there. Besides that, you can find the podcast on YouTube by just searching Shin Megami Tensei Network or Spencer Presley. That should be it. If you are going to Taiyou Con, we have a panel. It is all about Atlus's year in 2020, even though we say 2019 because we're just that meta. But yeah, Michael, thank you once again for coming on. I cannot believe I stole 2 hours of your time, so thank you very much for coming on. It was fantastic talking to you for more than like 15 seconds.
Oh, anytime, and it was great to have you to have me on as well.
Yeah,
I mean,
Oh no,
I
you
mean,
go.
no, I just forgive me. I'm a little tired,
No,
so
you're good. It is 9:30. I'm super aware. I've already made you fall asleep once, so I should have taken that as the wrap it up sign.
I apologize.
You're good. It was a learning experience for everyone. You wouldn't have known that I was recording this on a PlayStation camera otherwise.
No, I wouldn't.
But yeah, so thank you once again, and also thank you everybody for listening. And we will. Oh man, I don't know actually how I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna say the next episode of the podcast, unless something crazy happens and the show gets uploaded early, will be delayed until the day after the panel, and then the panel's live recording will just be next week's episode. So this week's episode's early, next week's episode will be late, but it'll be the Taiyou Con special for everyone who lives in New Zealand and doesn't want to fly to Arizona. So now is when we say goodbye, as if we are actually waving and they can see us, but then we will keep talking afterwards, and everyone will have to wonder what all of our NDA conversations are about. So goodbye, everybody!
Have a good night, everybody.
I can't believe how to see me. Just a cage of bones. There's nothing inside. When it always me burning down the walls, is there a way for me to break? I'm a shapeshifter, Apple's masquerade, hiding both face and mind, afraid for you to draw. I'm a shapeshifter, have no face to show. Just don't take off my mask, my disguise. Cause it dwell alone and long, without a clue, without a sign, without a question yet. The real question to be asked, where have I been? I'm a shapeshifter, Atlus masquerade, hiding both face and mind, but free for you to draw. I'm a shapeshifter, what a truth to be. Please don't take off my mask, revealing dark. Moments of calm, nothing to be found. A mirror in front of me is where I find an empty glass, reflection of the truth. It's telling what's to be told, and it's the mask. I'm a shapeshifter, Atlus masquerade, hiding both face and mind, afraid for you to draw. I'm a shapeshifter, chained up to my core. Please don't take off my mask, my place to hide. There's nothing inside. When it always me, burning down the walls, is there a way for me to break? I'm a shapeshifter, Atlus masquerade, hiding both face and mind, afraid for you to draw. I'm a shapeshifter, have no face to show. Please don't take off my mask, my disguise.
Unfortunately, I was planning on one of the panels I was going to submit for you guys. I think I'd just forgotten to throw it in there, but one that I hopefully somebody will accept, because I have just kept my love of visual novels. I've grown so much for it, is, and I'm always surprised there's such a huge crossover between anime fans and visual novels, even if they don't play a lot of games. How very few panels there are about it. So one of the ones I kind of wanted to do was basically it's half a, hey, here's what visual novels are, and here's a good starter guide. It's not all boy and girl love, / basically recommendation talk. Because I feel one of the best part about visual novels is talking about them with other people, in terms of, hey, what's this? Basically almost how you would talk to someone in a bookstore about oh, what are you reading, what do you recommend, stuff in that sort of genre that makes them very unique as opposed to a lot of games. Because if you're already playing one visual novel, you're pretty much, it's a safe bet in terms of you can recommend one compared to the other.
Oh, I'm sorry, I spaced out. Can you repeat that again? I'm so sorry.
You're good. Did I catch you sleeping? Because I definitely heard hardcore breathing in the mic.
No, I'm sorry. My microphone's a cheap Chinese mic.
Dude, I've got you beat on the mic meter. How does mine actually sound in terms of quality?
Oh, it sounds really good.
All right. For the last, oh god, what are we at? 7+ years, I have been recording on a PlayStation Eye camera from the PlayStation 3 era that I bought used for $5 at a GameStop. I know. It's a lot to process.
That is a lot to process.
It shouldn't sound this good. It's got the camera quality of two PSPs duct taped together, but as a group room mic, it works fantastic, and I don't know why.
No, and it's definitely I didn't know.
That's okay. That's one of my favorite things about it is like I know I need to upgrade, but like
But a PlayStation iMic though,
yeah,
like
PlayStation 3, the eye camera, like the one you would play Eye of Judgment if you were a big nerd back in those days.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Yep, that is what I used. I bought it $5. Bought it for $5 at a GameStop. Used probably in like 2008, and somehow it still works.
Oh, I don't think I've ever played Eye of Judgment.
No,
Now that
no,
I think about it.
I don't know why that I don't know why that's like the first PlayStation 3 camera game I always think of, but that was like the only one because there wasn't really like an iToy equivalent. Like
Yeah.
actually, the only reason I bought this was because I was into SingStar, and this was the only microphone that you could use to play SingStar with, like in terms of it would like show you in it. Like so, what I used as a really dumb SingStar camera has now been a podcast microphone for almost a full decade. So, going back to what I said before I apparently gave you narcolepsy,
I'm sorry, forgive
No, you're good. The fact that you would spaced out, like, I almost am tempted. No, I'll cut it out and maybe make it like a blooper or something. It literally makes it sound like as I was talking, because the breathing just got louder and louder, it literally made it sound like I bored you to sleep in the middle of my description. But no, I've been